Welcome to Connect for Health, the webinar and podcast series brought to you by Cigna Healthcare Middle East and Africa with a little support from Mental. Each month we bring experts into the room to help you live a more healthy, empowered life. I'm Scott Armstrong, I'm the founder of Mental, and as always I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Maissa Khafajy, the Head of Government Affairs and Strategic Communications at Cigna Healthcare. As always, if you're joining us live, this is exclusively for Cigna Healthcare members, and you'll be able to put your questions in the chat box and we'll answer them live with our experts. Plus, we'll be asking you poll questions. Get involved. It's interactive. We want to know how you feel on today's topic. And today's topic is a corker. Around the world, we have a financial cost of living crisis, and our finances and money are one of the things that are keeping us awake at night around the world. But what about here in the UAE? Well, I'm delighted today to be joined by a guest who is no stranger to this topic, being a chartered accountant for more than 2 decades. Glynn of Conscious Finance Coaching has helped countless people transform their lives with her education and her campaigning work. And she's also a 3-time winner of the Mental Awards. Glynn, welcome to Connect for Health.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
As we were saying, lots of people around the world are losing sleep around finances. And actually, Mental and Cigna Healthcare, we always work together on the Cigna International Health Study 2025. And the UAE data showed that financial stress was the leading cause of stress for people in this country. It seems like an obvious question, but we'll start with a kind of helicopter view. Why is money such a source of concern for us? Why is it playing such a dominant role in our lives?
Because it touches every part of our lives. I often ask this question is, if you think about your daily decisions, your choices every day, how many of them are not impacted by money?
I think we need to move on because I don't think I could.
Yeah. And this is it. It's because it impacts everything. It impacts our choice, our sense of security, our well-being, our health, our relationships. There's nothing we can do that, can just exclude money from our lives. And it causes a lot of stress as well because we don't talk about it enough. We're not educated on the best way to manage it. And we inherit and absorb so many beliefs around money that then play out in our lives. And it's that cauldron, that combination of everything for something that's so intricate in our daily lives. It creates this bubble of stress. And the research shows, it's so true, like right now it is in the UAE, but it's a global problem.
Yeah.
It is regularly reported as the number 1 cause of stress worldwide for men and women from all education levels, backgrounds, cultures. It's universal.
I just wanted to ask, I had a conversation with somebody about a week ago, and we were talking about, and we'll touch upon this later with regards to men and women and, how money impacts them. But even those who are on, substantially well pay, they're, up there, senior leadership, great pay package, it's still a cause of anxiety. So
yes.
What is the reason, if we can pinpoint it, or reasons of why money causes so much anxiety?
It's because it comes down to our mindset, how we actually feel about money and how we feel about ourselves. A lot of it comes down to self-esteem. We are told more money will solve the problem. It doesn't. It often exacerbates the problem and it creates that carrot. If I have more money, then it'll be okay. I have more money, it'll be okay. And we become more and more kind of desperate to go, I have more money, but I'm not okay. Why is it not solving the problem? It's because our core relationship with money is not healthy. And I say all of the time, it's not about what we earn. It's actually about what we do with it and how we feel about it.
Right.
That's the key. And I work with clients who, from every spectrum, to people who have a lot of debt, to people who are ultra high net worth individuals, right? And I see the same thing. It's actually what you're doing with that money is the key to whether how stressed you are and how actually happy you are in life. So I often give this example where it happened to be, it just always comes to mind because I was working with them at the same time. One family who were earning a certain amount of money that someone might say, okay, that's quite average, that's okay. Single, she was the breadwinner, single income household. They were investing, they were very, working on their money mindset, their plans, they were very conscious, intentional with their money. And at the same time was working with another family who were earning multiple six figures, super stressed, fighting about money all of the time. And it's because they weren't intentional with their money. They weren't conscious with it, and they were just throwing money at the problem, and it wasn't solving the problem, and that was compounding the stress.
Right.
So really it comes down to money itself does not solve the problem. It's what you're doing with that money, how you're living your life backed up by that money. It's not necessarily problem solving, but helps you live a happier life.
But then that is also why you actually provide that conscious awareness of how money impacts and how you approach money and how you deal with money.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a holistic kind of...
It's very holistic. It has to, you cannot have one without the other.
Yeah.
Financial literacy is amazing. High earning is fantastic. I'm not like, oh, don't earn lots of money. Earn as much money as you feel will give you the life that you want to live. That's the key. That's enough, because that's another problem we have. We are not taught to learn how much is enough. Go for more, go for more, go for more. I'll be happy when. It'll be better when. I'll feel successful when. But that's an outside job. We need to come back in. So it's looking at what is actually the right amount of money for you to live the life that you want to live. Essentially what I do is help clients come back to using your money in line with your values. Do you know what's important in your life, and are you putting your money behind it?
Is it aligned?
Because if you reverse that, I'm living my life in search of money because that's the goal, then it's a hamster wheel that will cause stress, and it's very hard to get off. So, but even if you earn an abundant amount of money, and of course that's relative, right? So what's a huge amount of money to one person is nothing to someone else, right? So that's a very personal thing. But if you, what you need to know is what you're going to do with that money. What is the purpose behind that money? And then you'll actually be less stressed.
Yeah.
And actually, interestingly, energetically tends to bring in more money when you're feeling more settled and grateful and happy with it.
Because you're receiving it.
And that's a big thing, especially for women, the ability to receive and hold money and feel safe. Because a lot of high earners that I work with, to your kind of original question, they earn a lot of money, but they don't feel safe with it. They feel very stressed because they're terrified it's going to go away.
Wow.
There's a lot of imposter syndrome. What if this... And then there's a sense of, now we've built a life around this and I feel the responsibility of it and I feel trapped. But it's not bringing me happiness. We're not living the life we thought we would.
Can I ask a question?
You can. No, I'm actually, for once, I'm like shutting up and just listening. I'm receiving. I'm learning to receive.
No, but I think it's something that we've also touched upon earlier on when we were just having our little side conversation. How many of those people that you were describing, do they fall into the male, female categories, especially when you're, when you touched upon things like the imposter syndrome, that concern and that worry about the responsibility now that they have access, or they've built, their whole kind of like identity is all around the money that they have managed to work, accrue and build on.
I find in my day-to-day work with my clients, and also in the research that I've done, that there is a distinction there.
Okay.
When we talk about men and women and money, they're different approaches in general. Not everyone, of course.
Yeah.
When I talk to women about money, this will kind of bring it back to, I ask a question in talks, right? And you'll put up the word cloud and people just anonymously submit. What does money mean to you? And only one time, when it was only women in the room, one time, and I don't know, multiple times I've asked that question, hundreds maybe, security wasn't the biggest number, because the most responded number is the biggest number on the screen. Security for women. The other time it was freedom.
Interesting.
Security, freedom, independence, right, is what comes up for women.
Yeah.
I've never heard those responses from a man when I've asked them that. When I ask, and there's men in the room, it'll be a bit more diluted, with power, strength, manhood, wealth, investments, smart, wise, cars, all of these kind of words come up.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, right, then, and I remember one time asking it in a room where it was mixed, and men said it's a social construct. It's a means to an end. Whereas the one woman actually said
an
it's
end.
dignity.
Wow.
So I often say,
powerful.
and we
That
talk about
really
bringing it
is
back
powerful,
to
yeah.
relationships, why it is one of the main causes of arguments in relationships. So we talk about marriages, right? If you have a man who he has been conditioned, and we're talking intergenerational, cross-culturally, my role is to provide. My sense of success is when I earn lots of money. My career. And that is attached very often for men to their self-worth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas for women, it's security, right? And it's emotional, it's safety. It's not put upon us generally as women to go seek career wealth for our self-worth. It's for our independence, it's for our security.
Yeah.
So you have a man and a woman who don't understand this about each other. And you're talking about money, it's why the arguments in relationships about money, right? He, of course, is coming at it from his perspective. This is just a means to an end. It's a social construct. It's transactional. And it's my sense of I am successful and I am bringing what I need to do. I'm doing what I should be doing for my family. And she's coming at it, looking at it from, but no, it's security, it's emotional, it's independence.
Yeah.
It's very, we feel it very much. Of course they're going to argue because then they're coming at it. I often say it's like that 6 and a 9. I'm looking at a 6, he's looking at a 9.
Yeah.
We don't understand.
I'm just going to quickly. No, we're very, very quickly. No, come in, guys. Come in. You're very welcome to this conversation. We're going to get to a poll in a short while, but I just wanted to ask you the question: either what's causing arguments, around money between you as partners, or indeed, as Carol was asking, what does money mean to you? Tell us in the chat box what you think money means to you, whether you're a woman or a man. Just be interesting to see what you guys have to say. So get involved. Sorry, Maissa.
It was just touching upon what you were saying, the different perspectives from the male perspective and the female perspective, with the whole idea of male perspective is it's transactional, it's a means to an end. And from a relationship, if we were going to kind of step further, even if you weren't in a relationship in the sense that you were married, but you were, dating or starting a relationship, it's this whole kind of viewpoint of, women are gold diggers, if that's the thing that they seem to kind of be really focused on, the income and the earn. But it's interesting because you're saying, well, no, it's because we see it as, well, how secure, how safe, how it makes us feel. So that's extremely fascinating because you wouldn't really look at it in that way.
We don't.
No.
We don't, but it's actually, when you say it, it makes sense, right?
Yes,
it's so core to us.
Yes.
And I have this question a lot about, especially when people are dating, should I let him pay 50-50? With this new way of being as women, actually, is it wrong? And we as women as well have been in a lot of, and this is more cultural, I think, in certain spots of the world, to view men based on that. So they're viewing themselves and am I a good breadwinner? Am I a good family man in that sense? And we maybe, without even realizing it, are judging men based on their ability to provide. And we're putting that on them as well. But actually, do we need it? Do we want it? And that's a personal choice.
Right.
That is a personal choice. My one thing, though, I will say is that in relationships, who earns the money, I don't think is important. To me, and it doesn't actually matter. What matters is that both people in that relationship have a healthy relationship with money, with each other, and have an agreement that, if she decides I want to be a stay-at-home mum and he's happy to go and work and provide for that, amazing. That's a joint decision. And vice versa. But I will say it's interesting since I've been doing this work specifically. And my personal one was, in my marriage, I was the main breadwinner, right? So and we're in the Middle East, right? So when I moved here 16 years ago, that was very unusual. We moved here for my job. He came and got a job after we got here. So I often have these conversations with men because back then I was a bit of an anomaly, so they were interested. But you know what, actually, it broke my heart, the amount of men who said to me, and they were very cautious, I'm not sure how to say this because I don't want to seem sexist or controlling. It's not that. It's, if I'm not the breadwinner in the house, what's the point of me?
Wow.
That comes back to a big self-esteem / mental health conversation, which we'll get to. I'm going to pause here for a second because actually, guys, have been jumping in. So I just want to read comments out. Firstly, Mohammed, yes, this will be available as a podcast. It will be on our YouTube channel. If you search for ConnectForHealth on Cigna Healthcare's YouTube page, it'll be there. It'll also be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So yes, we've got you. So what we've got, Nuru, thank you for your comment. I'm a woman. Money represents security and safety. So absolutely backing it up. Cedric, money is a tool that allows me to live the life I want. Does that represent a good relationship with money?
Yes.
Yes.
Very much.
Well done, Cedric.
Yeah.
Osagi, money means provision for my family and others I care about, and to contribute to the need of others. And I'm a male. I think that sounds like that sounds like a great answer. Osagi,
Yes.
thank you very much. I hope I pronounced your name right. Osagi. Mohammed, money means stress relief. In now, a person can do what they want in life rather than be forced to do a job every day. So that's kind of like
financial
that.
freedom.
That's
Yeah,
financial freedom, which
freedom.
we'll come on to in a bit. And morning all. Oh, you're coming in. Money means independence and freedom. I'm a woman. Vandana, thank you. Arjun, money represents choice for me, which is interesting. And I have a question for the group. How can I create a budget that actually works? Is there a common framework to adopt? We'll come on to some of the practical tools in just a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back almost like to the first principles of where we came in this conversation when you were talking about that money mindset, because so many of us who are here in the UAE and in this region kind of move here to work and to earn. We kind of work to better our lives. We're coming for jobs. It's very easy to get caught on that hamster wheel. And I can imagine so many people are in the, and often as well, the only way to get more money is to kind of work your way up, take promotions, sometimes be promoted into spaces where you're not particularly comfortable, you take on more responsibility, and then you can get trapped on that wheel of chasing the money. How do you get people to change that money mindset, which is like, you don't actually, do you need the big house? Do you need the big car? We know Dubai and the UAE is like, there is a lot of comparison going on. It's around the world. Social media doesn't help. But how do you get people to take a step back and go, whoa, you're kind of coming at this with the wrong mindset?
It's three things: values, clarity, and purpose. So usually when I work with people, the quickest and fastest way to do that is to make it tangible. So we actually do look at their finances. So we look at the last 6 months of all income and all expenses, line by line, in the sense of like categories, which can be very scary for people. But the purpose for that is clarity. So when you see where you're spending your money, you can't deny it. It's from a credit card. It's not an estimate on the budgeting piece. Don't estimate, go to facts. The facts are based on your credit card and your debit card spending. This is where you're spending your money. Yeah. People will say, that's my life in numbers, Carol. Right? So then you get clarity. Where is your money going? Then we look at values and say, is this in line with your value system? Are you spending money? Is this making you happy? And it's not about where you're spending your money, but it's also what's missing. Because if you're getting caught up in the hamster wheel and like looking, as we often talk about here, particularly in this country, but you're right, it's a global thing. What other people are doing, they look happy, that looks like success, let me do that. And then you get there and you're like, but it's empty, I'm not happy, there's something wrong, I'll go for more. It's because it's not actually in line with your values. And when you do that with the numbers, it's very confronting, I do admit that, or it can be, but you can't deny it. So you have full clarity and like, well, actually, I don't care about that. That's not important to me. Look at all the money I'm spending there. Why am I doing that? So then you can you've got clarity, you know exactly what's happening right now. Your values bubble up. It's really interesting. It's just the conversations flow. I don't see travel enough. I'd love to travel more. Or, whatever, everyone, it's personal. It can even be, I'd love to shop more. I don't shop enough because I restrict myself because I feel like I shouldn't. I'd love to spend a bit more. And we look at it and then you give it purpose. Money needs a purpose. When your money has a purpose that is in line with your values, everything genuinely does change. So to your point of the house, right? So I was interviewed a while ago and I was asked, should we all just be going to minimalist? There was this drive towards small houses and minimalist living. Is that the right thing to do so we can save lots of money? And I said, yes, if it's in line with your values. Because if you put someone into a small house and they are miserable, they're saving lots of money, but they're absolutely miserable, then that's not the point of money. No. Whereas if you put that same person into a bigger house, they might be saving less, but they're really enjoying that house. They have family over. It's in line with their values. It's comfort. It's a nice space. They like pretty things and they like to feel at home, and they're using their money in that way. Might be saving a bit less. They will live a much, much happier life. So it's that purpose. What is the purpose of your money? Is it financial freedom? Is it to live a life that you want to live? What is that life? Align your money with that. And then it takes away the pressure of always being wise with money, of always to having the right decision. And this is where women particularly will ease into that much easier. Because that feels like, because we tend to also be much more comfortable with spending the money in the now to create the lifestyle now, and we defer the bigger picture. Whereas men will kind of sit with that a bit longer to go, okay, that's great, but what about the bigger picture? You know, I need to do both. So it's working through that, and it's a process, but you have to be really honest with yourself and how you're living your life. Because I often say, like, the money with me, it's as much about your value system and how you want to live your life as it is. Sometimes people will think it's all financial literacy. Stop spending.
Well, that's fascinating, because we're not actually talking about currency. We're not actually talking about a savings account at this stage, or a budget, or an Excel sheet, or anything like that. That conversation around values, which is actually emotional and somewhat intangible. How often? I guess, like, how often do we actually stop and go, what are my values? You know, and I think in this, you know, hectic world that we're living, how many people do you see that have not even thought about their values?
No, and I was even thinking about what you said, which was core, is that you have to be intentional with your money. How many people, if you were to just have that conversation, will actually stop and think and pause and realize if they are intentional or have been living their lives thus far in an intentional way?
No. Like, probably one of the most common things, clients come to me and they'll say, you know, I don't have the lifestyle, you know, especially when we're in Dubai, we can be a little bit like we need to justify ourselves. I don't go crazy on the handbags. I don't go brunch every weekend, but money just seems to fall through my fingers. I don't understand where it goes. And that's where we go back to, I'm an accountant. Ultimately, I love a good spreadsheet.
Of course.
And we go back to it and we go, well, let's get clarity and see it. And that's where they see, I'm not living my life intentionally. But there's another layer to intention we need to also be careful with, because we can get hyper intentional with the wrong things. I'm going to super save. I'm going to save as much as I possibly can. There's this age-old thing here as well. It can be spend very little, save as much, go home and buy a house. I mean, maybe 15, 20 years, like when I got here first, that was all the talk. Take advantage of the tax-free environment. But now obviously that's changing as people are staying longer. But I'm going to save, or I'm going to invest. But again, if that's not feeding your life, it's not that actually in line with your values, that intention is misplaced.
Right.
It has to be, how do I want to live my life? And I advocate for living now while also preparing for the future. Get super intentional behind that, because the clarity around your values, the clarity around your money and the purpose behind it, and then intention actually becomes really easy, becomes natural.
So much I could say, but I'm not going to right now. I'm going to bring you guys in, and I can see some questions coming in, and I do want to prioritize those, but we'll go to our first poll first, and we'll crowdsource your thoughts on that one, and then I'll bring a couple more questions in, and then we can carry on the conversation. So, good question, this one. What causes you the most financial stress? Is it monthly expenses, rising rent, school fees? Is it saving for the future? Is it debt or loans? Is it a lack of financial planning? Is it not sure where to start? And I feel like we should have an F, which was all of the above. But monthly expenses, saving for the future, debt or loans, lack of financial planning, or not sure where to start. And while people are just responding, hopefully you can see the questions on your screens. What would you expect that to be? What causes people the most financial stress when you're seeing them?
It really is very individual. I think the number one would be feeling out of control. That not knowing where to start.
That not knowing where to start.
Or that feeling of money's falling through my hands and I don't know what to do. The other one would be having debt. And especially credit card debt here.
Which is very easy here as well, isn't it?
Very easy, too easy. And it's very, very expensive here, which I've realised that a lot of people don't actually realise that it's significantly more expensive here than most of our home countries. And that's why I often refer to it as like financial quicksand. You feel like you're constantly fighting it, throwing money at it, but you're sinking further. So I would say not having clarity is ultimately not knowing where to start, and having debt is really, really stressful. And then what underpins both of those is your mindset.
Yeah. I wanted to actually talk about how often you see the impact of these monetary issues at a family level. So how this would impact a family environment, parents, how that spills over to the children.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring the results of the polling first,
right.
just so you know what people were saying. And thank you for voting. Really appreciate you taking the time. Saving for the future. That security, the biggest one, 42%. And then when we break it down, it's monthly expenses, 20%, a lack of financial planning, 17%, and actually less than 10% on debt alone. So obviously you're doing doing well. Congratulations.
And I did actually, I'm glad that came up, because I had that in mind to say saving for the future is particularly poignant here.
Right, yes.
Because I realised when doing talks here and then talking to clients who are not in the UAE or let's say the Middle East, they don't think about saving for the future outside, say, the GCC in the same way my clients this is than we do. And I thought about this and I sat with it. It's because, let's say I'm Irish, okay? If I was living and working in Ireland, I'd be paying into a governmental pension.
Yeah.
If I lose my job, there's social welfare support.
Yeah.
And even broader than that, if anything happens, I can go live with my dad, right? Ultimately, you know, you have a brother or a support network that's there, safety net.
Yeah.
When people move here, especially if you're a single individual and you're solely responsible for yourself, you've no one to fall back on, that sense of security is gone. It doesn't exist. And there's a lot more talk here about planning for the future, because if you stay, and more people, like we were saying, is staying here long term, we don't have those pensions, governmental pensions to fall back on. We have to provide for ourselves. And then there's that age-old conversation of, you have to be responsible in the UAE and make the best of the money that you have here, because we're all seemingly on amazing salaries, and it's tax free. And then, well, what about the cost of living? It compounds that sense of stress that we feel more so than I see my clients outside this region.
Wow. Let's come back to your question around family, around children, because it does connect actually as well to some of the questions that are coming in. So I'm going to give Maissa a shot, and then I'll ask your questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so just going back to some of the experiences that you may have, had dealing with financial issues and stress at a familial level, how it impacts all the individuals in a family setup.
Yeah, and it does. It impacts everybody. Yeah. So 2 pieces here, and I'm going to say them out loud so I remember. One is the couple and the family, and the other is the children.
Yeah,
right?
the children.
So I work with a lot of couples, and it's great. More and more, actually. The longer I'm doing this, more and more couples.
And they both present, so they're both usually
yes and no.
Okay.
So when I say work with couples, I'm talking about when they're together.
Yes, when they're
now
together,
I do have sometimes where one individual presents, and that is usually because the other person is not willing to get involved in the conversations, or there's something more toxic going on there, and the person is working on planning their finances for a future decision.
Okay.
So if we go back to when the couples come together.
Yes.
And this is where the dynamics of the male kind of perspective and the female perspective often come on. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that can flip. You know, the female can present with like money is this and men. But in general, it is that kind of traditional role. And consistently, they will tell me they cannot relate to each other when it comes to money, and it's the cause of stress in their relationship. And that is why they're here.
Right.
Because when they try and talk about it without the independent support of me, because, I'm the accountant and I'm also, I've coaching, training. So I have that skill set. I'm the kind of middle person to help manage the emotions and help them see things from each other's perspective. They fight. And actually something you said earlier, Scott, that reminded me, when I talk about with couples, I will often say, if you're doing this by yourself, like not say with me in the room, before you go near a spreadsheet, as much as I love them, ask each other, what does money mean to you?
Yeah.
This connects directly to a question actually Jean's asked on the chat, which was like, and she's asking, or it might be Jean, so it may be he, sorry, for newly married couples.
Yes.
But this is the thing, what is the advice you can give them in terms of talking about finances. So I suppose this applies not just to newly married couples, but to all couples.
Everyone. And actually, ideally before you get married. But if it's after, which very, very few people do. So don't feel bad if you're 10 years into your marriage and you've never talked about this, because that's extremely common, or longer, is actually forget about the numbers, forget about the spreadsheet, forget about those big picture plans. Talk to each other about the emotions around money. Yeah. Like, what does money mean to you? Yeah. What was your life growing up with money? Just being really, really curious with each other's mindset and feelings around money. And couples tell me when they do that, it is an eye-opener for them. And again, because we sometimes, I see it more maybe because I talk to more women. Women will criticize men that they don't get it, they don't understand it, I feel attacked. Men don't know. They don't know this. How would they know this unless they're informed? You know, if when I do talks, and sometimes with corporates, they will ask me, it's maybe a female talk, like, and say, can men come? I'm like, please bring the men, because if they don't know, they don't know. Yeah. Like, men will come in. And it's always been, wow, I had no idea. I can't wait to go home and talk to my partner. And actually we have this new perspective. And couples will tell me they're closer. Wow. Afterwards, because they know each other more. They understand the reason behind the behaviour rather than just criticising the behaviour. Yeah. Stop spending on that because that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me because it's not aligned with my values or my perspective on money. Yeah. But if you can understand why, she's spending that way because it softens the whole conversation. Yeah. Less judgment, less arguments, less finger pointing. Yeah. So start there and then go to the spreadsheets. And couples will tell me, you know, very often, you know, because I do obviously introductory calls, and they'll say it's you or the marriage counsellor.
I was going to ask at what point, because I would have thought that for them to present to you, they would have identified that the root cause is, you know, the finance, the money, the inability to work around it. But it's like, whose door do you knock on first?
And that's it. And when they can get that specific, and a lot of couples will say, you know, our relationship's amazing and we're so happy until we start talking about money.
Interesting.
And that's why then they come to me to say, okay, how can we do this? Yeah. And obviously they'll both come with their motivations. And my job is there to be that independent person to help them, you know, just bring clarity, purpose and a joint value system, and where their value systems overlap and they create shared goals. And honestly, and that's why I love working with couples, because it makes such an impact. And again, it's not just about the bank account. It's not about being better with money. Yeah. They're closer. Yes. They understand each other more. And that for me, in my job, is what I just find really fulfilling. But if we go on to, so that's the couple. So when they have a healthier relationship when they're even talking about money in front of the children. Yeah. Because we all know our kids absorb watching us more than what we tell them to do. Yeah. So I very regularly get asked, can you teach my children? Can you work with my children about money? Because I can see the scarcity mindset coming out. Yes. It's my scarcity mindset coming out on them.
It's projected,
It's projected and they're absorbing it. Or and the flip side being, you know, we're very wealthy, we've done very well in Dubai, and I don't want my kids to grow up spoiled. I want them to appreciate money. I want them to have a work ethic. How do I do that? Can you speak to the children? And I always say, let's start with you. Because our language, our behaviours, and even when they go into early adulthood, it impacts it. Yeah. And I have this come back where couples have told me their kids have changed completely how they talk about money and behave about money without directly actually doing anything with the children.
They're just kind of via osmosis in a way, soaking it up from the general conversation.
And you know what a big part of it is? Conversation. Yeah. You know, and being mindful of the language we use around money. So, you know, we say, my child might say, I want a new toy. That's too expensive. Or, no, do you think money grows on trees? Or don't be greedy. Right? We all do it.
Particularly right now, this time of year for some expat families around now.
The gifting season.
The gifting season and the stress of December. You know, we can't deny it, because then a lot of us as well in December, again, not unique to here, but different to maybe some of our family members back home. We have the stress of the traditional present giving and making that a special season, and then travel on top.
Yes.
But they don't have.
Yeah,
and travel is expensive.
That's true.
So we have a lot more things to consider. So just being mindful of your language around your children and just being honest with them. But first we have to do that for ourselves, because very often we say that we don't even know what we're saying. We don't register it. So working on your own language. And then if it is a case of, if there's a limited budget, we can't pay for that thing right now, rather than saying we can't afford that. Because then kids will often go, oh, are we poor? Or is there a problem? Just say, well, right now we're prioritizing the travel. We're prioritizing the nice time at Christmas, whatever that might be. So for now, there isn't room in the budget for that, but we can look at it later because we're doing this. And I've yet to have a family come back to me and say the kids reacted badly to that. They actually go, oh, okay. And then they start coming with ideas, and they stop asking, and they start understanding the prioritization and the purpose and the value around money themselves.
That connects actually directly to Cedric asked a question, which is kind of like, how can I set my financial barriers and communicate them to family and friends? So it's not just for your children, but also, how do you, because obviously there is a lot of peer pressure and a lot of social pressure to go out to the brunches and to do all that sort of thing.
It's difficult.
The birthday dinners.
That's one of the toughest ones. But it comes back to, first of all, do the work yourself. So getting that clarity and having a purpose for your money is really powerful for that. And that purpose, when I say it, has to be something that you're really emotionally attached to. So an easy one would be financial freedom, right? So in this example, let's say this person is planning to retire at 50. And they have done out their budget, if I don't like that word, but we can come back to that later. They've done their budget and they're planning to retire at 50. And that means that they are dedicating a large amount of savings to that purpose, right? So they're very excited about that. Then an opportunity comes up, like a brunch or a travel or something that's going to derail that. Now, if you didn't have a purpose that you really care about, and you might have, this is where money falls to your fingers, especially if you are in a situation where you do have a nice amount of money, you're quite comfortable, there's no reason not to do that. You'll just go, oh, okay, why not? I might as well. They're doing it. Sounds like fun. It's back to that, like almost keeping up with the Joneses, right? You've no reason not to. But if you sit with that and say, I'm not interested in going for brunch, is a low-hanging fruit example here, but I'm not interested in going for that brunch. I'm only going because they've asked me and I kind of feel like I'd like to see that person. But actually, if I spend that X amount of money, no, I would rather put that money towards my financial freedom in that example. And you can do that because your purpose is important. And then you come up with an alternative and you say, look, I'm not going to meet you for brunch, but I'd love to see you. Can we go for breakfast one morning? Or let's go for a walk? Or shall we go to the beach? Because I want to see, because generally those things are connection, those social interactions. We want to maintain that value. And again, you cannot control what other people feel and say and think. They're going to do what they're going to do. So when I'm talking about, your own family and friends, whether you are comfortable to sit with them and go, this is what I'm doing. So I'm not going to be going to these activities every weekend and when you deliver that message, because you thoroughly believe in it, and you're talking energetics of like, it's not open for discussion. They're a lot less likely to push back. Whereas if you go, oh, I don't think I can because I'm thinking about doing this. And they're like, but that's, go on, don't worry. It's so much fun. You can deal with that. What are you worrying about? Because you're not solid in your conviction. They're two different conversations. So it has to come back to being clear, setting a purpose, and then being solid in your conviction of that. And that's why I was saying financial freedom for that example is, you might say a pension, right? I want to retire. But I've had one person in all these conversations say to me, I'm really excited about retiring, as in the concept of retiring. Most people are like, oh, it's another adulting thing I need to do. I don't even know what it means. It feels heavy. It's draining my money for some future thing. Whereas when I say financial freedom, people are like, that's where I'm working because I want to, not because I have to. They're like, that's amazing. I will do.
How you frame it.
They're the same thing.
While we're talking about family and friends and family, there's just a really interesting point that Ijaz, thank you for your comment, he's posted in. I inherited my desire for financial freedom from my father. He saved as much as he could to the extent of not spending on opportunities to bond with the family. I suppose it was easy for him to sacrifice that, but as children, I feel I missed out on a lot of things in my childhood. That's a really complicated question because it's kind of like we've got parental guilt in there. We're trying to save money. But again, this kind of comes back to the values within the family.
Yes.
But again, like bonding doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot.
Doesn't have to cost money. No. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. It doesn't have to. But that is a very, I'd say, like the generation before me and maybe 2 generations before, especially if you're coming from a situation where maybe your parents, your grandparents didn't have a lot of money. And their motivation and their value system might have been, it's security and it's maybe paying for your education.
Yeah.
So I would, rather than sitting with, my dad didn't bond with me maybe, talk to him if he's still here and say, what was your motivation for doing that? What was your purpose behind self-sacrificing maybe for this money? Because we can assume it was like being tight or greedy or, you know, actually, but usually there's a good reason behind it and it's selfless. And making peace with that, and that's their decision, but then taking it to your own life and going, rather than going the opposite way, because sometimes we can retaliate against that and say, I'm going to spend all my money on my kids because my dad didn't spend any money on me. And just being careful to not go to the extreme, to go, okay, well, what's actually important to me and how can I use my money to make sure that my kids feel loved and that I feel like I have a connection with them while also doing everything else.
And I'm not saying that was, you know, that was in fact the scenario, but I also read it in a way where, and it took me back to some of the, you know, some of the childhood that not necessarily my own, but I had also had kind of like access to from friends where their fathers were never around because they were earning and because they were trying to provide and have a certain standard of living. It meant not having that connection and that bonding. Because even though as a child you don't see it or you don't understand and process it as such, when you, as an adult, you understand that they were doing it because they wanted to make sure that you had a home, a roof, you know, ability to go off and study at university, but you still would like to have had those moments where they were always around on a weekend or they were just there to go on a walk with, you know, that kind of thing.
And that's why this whole thing about bringing it back to your values and how much is enough is so important.
Yes.
And it comes back as well to that, you know, intergenerationally where men were conditioned, their job was to bring in the money.
Yeah.
And I've seen this in divorces as well through like my, you know, work and whatever, where in that actually it happens, and it's not just the kids, it's the partnership where he gets the shock of his life when she leaves because he's never around. So the relationship disintegrates and he's surprised because he's like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm working hard. I'm providing the money. What did I do wrong? And so it's actually, we criticize in that situation, but actually it's coming from a good place of what they believed was the right thing to do. And that's why it's always bringing back to yourself, what am I doing? How am I earning my money? What am I doing with my money? And is it actually building the life that I want to live? That's the key piece. So it sounds quite individualistic, but we have to start with ourselves and then we bring in everyone around us.
I mean, I've been working on my values over the last few years, but I remember figuring out that I, as a parent, wanted to be around for my daughter more. And thankfully now the job and the life I've built means that I can spend a lot more time. But you did see like so many guys, either my age or a little bit older, you know, approaching retirement age. And then they'll go, hi kids, I'm available. By which point their grown-up kids are turning around going, well, sorry, Dad, you missed it. You know what I mean? So it is that kind of, there are people out there, again, coming back to that values, I just don't think people have stopped to go, what are the values? You know, it's just the rat race.
It is, and that's where it's being clouded by money is the answer. Where actually, no, money is just the fuel, money is the energy.
It's been given too much power.
It's been given way too much power. And there is that that phrase, whereas money is an amazing servant, but a terrible master.
Yes.
Nice.
And we have to flip. We let money be the master
that one,
too long.
Again.
we let it be the master too much.
We could talk about this all day. I can see that we're getting into the sort of last 15 minutes. So perhaps we'll just change gears and look at practical tools a little bit more. So this is the ideal opportunity to bring in the second poll, which is what financial skill would you most like to improve? And hopefully you'll have the questions and the options come up. Budgeting, your favorite word, saving,
spreadsheets,
investing, managing debt, or building long-term wealth. Again, when you see people walking through your door, Carol, what are the kind of priorities? What are they looking to get?
Most people want to jump to investing.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
That's the buzzword that you say, I want an ETF. I want to...
Yeah, exactly. Investing's the answer.
Passive income, whatever that is.
Passive income, yes.
Yes.
And investing means passive income. Now...
Get rich quick, in a way.
Yeah. Well, that would be nice if it was
Wasn't
just like easy. But no, most people will come thinking the answer is investing. Because then I put my money to work and then I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
That's the kind of plaster on all of it. But I kind of give the analogy like, yes, investing is crucial. It's really, really important. But investing is like, if you're going to run a marathon, the investing piece is when you're actually on that track and you're running that marathon. There is a lot of work to do before you get there to run that healthily, successfully, don't injure yourself and actually enjoy it, right? So it's the piece before that's really, really important that we tend to just go, I don't want to do that bit. That's not the fun part. So I have this thing, it's like, it sounds a lot, but it's 13 elements of financial wellness and they're like roadblocks, right? Or not roadblocks, blocks, stepping stones. So you start with your value system, which we've touched on. Now your goals you can look at next, but I always said think of what your financial goals are, but don't attach to them just yet, because when you go through the process, guarantee you some of them at least are going to change. Get clarity, right? So this is where I said, if you want to go super practical, these are the steps. Keep your values in mind, do that work if you can. If not, it will bubble up during this process. Get clarity. Be brave, look at your financials, look at your credit card, where are you spending your money, what do you like, what do you not like, where are you spending more than you thought, where are you actually spending less than you thought, because we're very good at criticising ourselves for the luxuries and the nice things, when more often than not, we're actually spending less than we think and we're hemorrhaging monies in other ways that we don't even look at. Then create, once you have that knowledge, because then there's no denial, there's no black spots, and you have to do it. We can't run spreadsheets in our brains. You have to take out a tool or a spreadsheet to actually do that. Invest that time. I promise you it's worth it. Then we go to budgeting, or as I prefer to call it, a cash flow plan.
Okay.
Right? So people often ask me, what is the best way to do a cash flow plan? Or budget. But budget feels restrictive, right? It's like a money diet. I've done something wrong.
It is. It's a money diet.
It's a money diet. No, and that's not fun or motivating. And if we talk about sustainability, I think someone asked, like, how do I create one that sustains? Don't put yourself on a diet. Because if you're going to put yourself on like a 500 calorie diet, how long is it going to last? And it's not fun. No. And then we breach it and then it goes out the window. No, create a cash flow plan. Because now you have all this knowledge. You know what's important to you in life. You know where you're spending, what you like, where you don't like, where the low-hanging fruit is. And then you take the next 12 months and go, okay, it's easy if you're employed. This is my earnings. It's different, when you're an entrepreneur, very often that fluctuates. But okay, my income, my needs. A good rule of thumb to start with, up to 50% of your income can be dedicated towards your needs. So your needs being your housing, your electricity, your mobile phone bill, things you need. Okay, mobile phone, you might argue, but society we have to live, to function. Okay. Right? Kind of unavoidable. Tend to be our fixed costs. So we need to be quite careful with them because they tend to be fixed. If you think about it, you've either got a mortgage or a year-long lease. It's hard to change it. Even your mobile phone contract, you're locked into it. Your car, those kind of things, little maneuver once we decide on them. So try and keep them ideally as well below 50% as possible of your total income. Then look at your wants, your fun stuff. This is where it gets interesting. The rule of thumb here would be up to 30% of your income on that. So that's your shopping, your eating out, your travel, maybe your gym, food deliveries, things like that, right? Yeah. The discretionary. Food delivery is always an interesting conversation. I know, eating out actually is always a topic of conversation when I do this with my clients. But looking at all of that, and is that more or less than 30%? And then what that does then, it allows you to save, ideally, at least 20% of your income towards what we would traditionally say savings. I call my future self. Something I'm going to benefit in the future. And when we do it in line with that, it gives us, we all love a benchmark, right? We all love a guideline to start with. And it really gives you that insight into, okay, well, how am I doing along this? The lower below 50% you have with your needs, the more flexibility you have, if you think about it, right? So that's really important to kind of start with. And then when it comes to your wants, that's where your value system really comes in. How do I want to live my life? Do I want to put a lot of money towards travel because that's important? Do I want to put a lot of money towards shopping because looking good is really important to me and I want to have nice clothes or whatever that might be? Grooming, the same. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah.
What's important to you?
Yes.
And are you and being intentional. Intentional. So once you have that plan, then you can move on to the rest. You can say, okay, I've got clarity. You've got a sense of control, accountability, and I'm deciding. Because people come to me and go, Carol, just create me a budget. No, no point. You won't stick to it.
Yeah.
That's my budget. It's not yours. Has to be yours.
True. You need
I'll
to
hold your
buy
hand to
into
create
it.
it.
Yeah.
You have to buy into it. You
Yes,
have to
yeah,
decide.
yeah.
And because sometimes we can go with money. Oh, I don't know. And we hide behind that.
Yes, yes.
No, you can't say you didn't know. You're signing up to this and you're deciding. And I'm here to help you, of course, but you're deciding. Then you have that sense of like every time people go, they're excited because they feel in control.
Yeah.
And they've got clarity as well. You can see the next 12 months, I can see what's going to happen and what I want is taken care of. I can travel, amazing. I can actually spend some money without guilt because I've budgeted for it. Then you put the money to work.
Yeah.
So then it's that 20%. You say, what do I want to do that? What are my goals? Is it financial freedom? Is it paying off debt? Is it saving for my kids' education? Is it to buy myself a diamond ring? It doesn't matter once it's important to you, in line with your value system and benefiting your future self. Then you start looking at that. But there is no point, I've seen it too often, where people they commit to major investments. Say, I'm going to do 20%. I'll do 20%. That feels easy. And then every month they're like,
It's almost like the gym
Where
membership
is it?
that we pay for and then we don't use the gym.
Yes.
Yeah.
You nailed it, by the way.
Yeah.
Investing was the top answer in the poll of things they wanted to improve. But what you're talking about actually answers, I think, Ronnie, this actually talks to your question that you asked about mental accounting often beating those spreadsheets. And he said, how do you design budgets or cash flow plans that work with, not against human psychology? And I guess your answer is, is it tied to your values?
Yep.
Is that your North Star?
Yeah, exactly. And then you almost embody it. You don't need the spreadsheet after a while because you're not forcing yourself into doing something. You're doing what you want. Much
Amazing.
easier.
Ijaz is asking another question. You're smashing it today, Ijaz. Thank you very much for this. This is a really interesting one right now. Why do you think a lot of people are interested in financial freedom? Is it driven by a hatred of 9 to 5 and are workplaces doing something wrong?
That's a great question.
I mean, that is a big question.
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
But what do you think most people's motivations are? Because we are increasingly going financial freedom. We are looking out of the office window and going, I think we perhaps have the luxury of knowing that there is perhaps more to life than simply.
Yes, that's it. I think, as the generations go on, our viewpoint on the purpose of life and our purpose here is moving less and less from work to actually living.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, it's not that we hate our jobs, because a lot of people would say, oh, we just hate working. It's not that, because more and more my clients are saying to me, I actually don't want to retire. I don't see myself stopping working, but I want the choice.
Yes.
I want to be able to decide if I'm going to take 6 months off or not, or take on the jobs that I want to do versus the ones I have to do. It comes down to choice. I think we're more motivated towards choice, and I think we're also more motivated towards family now than we were in other generations.
Very much so.
Having time with people.
Yeah.
Time has become more important to us than the success. That side of things, like earning lots of money, it's still there, don't get me wrong, but it's conflicting now. How do I earn lots of money while also having time?
Well, we found that fascinating, didn't we, with the Cigna International Health Study?
Yes.
I mean, again, when you say people actually do want to work, I mean, we found in that study found that 80% of people who responded to that survey here in the UAE were willing to work harder to help their employer succeed. 75% of them were enthusiastic about work. And yet 67% of them were looking
elsewhere,
or intending to look for a new job because of work-life balance, because of that desire for some sort of flexibility. So there is a real sort of responsibility, like for employers to go, actually, this is something I need to look into.
For sure. And I think it would be important for employers to think about all of this, everything we've just talked about. What are people's motivations when it comes to salary packages and what we expect from our employees? We have to look past, well, that's a great salary, what's your problem? It's deeper than that.
Yes.
Great question. Time's ticking away, but there's a great question from Diana here. Thank you for your question, which I think I really want you to answer. How do I manage the anxiety around investing? She said, I feel like I've got very good at planning and saving, But then I just have cash sitting in my checking account because I'm very risk averse and I'm terrified of brokers. And I feel like that is actually quite a big barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah, taking that step.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
And I would say, not to always bring it back to men and women, but more prominent in women than men. Because women, we're risk adverse when it comes to money. Because why? It's our sense of security.
Yeah.
Yes.
Men are less risk adverse because they're told, go out, take a risk, make more money. And they're eager to double it, triple it, because that's part of their success story, right? So, but again, not all. Because I work with men and women who talk about this every day. First thing is, which is great. So by the way, well done that you're saving a lot and are you saving an amount of money. I find that people will say, but it doesn't bring me security. Where's the sense of security? Where's the sense of achievement? I have all this money in the bank. It's supposed to make me feel good. I'm supposed to feel successful. It doesn't, because it doesn't have a purpose. It needs a purpose. So in this case, what I do is we take that person's pot of money and we give it a purpose. And the first purpose is generally, what is your, traditionally called your emergency fund, your rainy day? I call it a cash cushion. What's your cash cushion, right? Especially for women, this is really important. Much of that is a money set aside for no matter what happens in life, good and bad. It doesn't have to be a disaster because energetically, why would we want to have a pot of money that's there for a disaster?
Exactly.
We want a pot of money that's there for to soft landing when life happens because we can't control life, or if an opportunity comes, or I want to leave my job because I hate my boss. I've got money. I can do it. I've choice, right? How much is that? Park it. Then what's the rest of it for? Long term, short term. What's the short term? Might be I'm buying a house in 2 years and I need a deposit. That pot, that's separate. That has a purpose. I'm buying a home. Or I'm going on a holiday next year and I want to just put money aside for it, whatever. Long term tends to be financial freedom, retirement generally, right? So now you've got 3 pockets. Now the investing piece in this tends to be the long term financial freedom piece. When it comes to investing, I have one rule. You need to understand it. If you are talking to a broker or an advisor or whoever, and they might be the most amazing broker in the world, and they're very authentic and qualified and special and amazing, but if they're getting you to invest into something and you're putting your money towards that, especially if you're from the situation of my money is my freedom and my security, when you go to bed at night, and that comes to mind, if that thought of that investment does not make you go, oh, I'm excited to see there, or yeah, I'm good with that, and actually helps you sleep, it's not worth it.
Okay.
It's not worth it. When you put in the time and effort and find someone who will teach you if you need that, or someone who, that broker, will sit and talk you through, this is exactly what it is, these are the consequences, to the point where you go, okay, I completely understand what this is. I feel confident and do it, then it's easier to invest. Because the pullback with investing is when we don't understand it and we think it's, what if it goes away because I don't know what this is. And also, you mentioned ETFs. It is, I guarantee you, it is significantly easier than you think, if you've never done it, to learn what an ETF is and to do it yourself. Even if it's $100, 100 dirhams. Just do it yourself one time. And come back to me and tell me you don't go, is it that easy? It can't be that easy. That's the reaction all the time. But it has to be about understanding it. Don't put your money, if you're feeling that, towards something you don't understand, because it's going to cause you stress.
I'm going to, because we've literally got about 2 minutes left, just one last question that Cecile answered, which raises a really good issue that obviously the media would have the world believe that we're all millionaires. But actually, not everyone's on a mega salary.
No.
So if you're on a slightly more humble, whether you're a blue collar worker, whether you're entry level and your salary isn't so great, how can you make considerable savings? How can you learn your finances when you don't have that massive paycheck? When
you don't have the space to breathe.
That you've got to answer that in
check.
less than 2 minutes.
Get clarity. Get clarity. Back to what I said. Get clarity, see where your money is going. Make a cash flow plan so you are deciding where your money is going in line with what's important to you. And you have to be hyper vigilant with your savings rate. Pay yourself first. When you get paid, put your, whatever you've put into your cash flow plan for that month, even if it's 2%, of your income, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be 20% to start. Even if it's 2% of your income, put that into a separate savings account and forget about it.
Okay.
Do that first and then spend the rest.
Okay.
We are basically out of time.
Oh my
We've managed to get through most of your questions.
Yeah.
Diana, I saw you had a follow-up question as well. But if any of the audience members had questions that we didn't manage to get to, how can people get in touch with you, Carol, to continue the conversation?
Yeah. My business is Conscious Finance Coaching. I'm most active on Instagram under that name. But yeah, you can contact me there. LinkedIn, I'm under my name, Carol Glynn. I'm pretty responsive on both. Or you can reach out to me at carol@consciousfinancecoaching.com.
Well, thank you for joining us on Connect for Health today. And thank you for being so engaged. Just one reminder, if you are watching this on YouTube, on the catch-up, or you're listening on the podcasts, you can get involved in all the interactivity and engagement if you reach out to Cigna Healthcare and talk about membership with them. And also, when the session closes, you will be asked for feedback. We consider feedback to be a gift. It only helps us help you more. So please give us your feedback. And remember, go and check out past episodes because there are some absolute crackers in there. But once again, thank you for joining us. And Carol, thanks for joining us on Connect for Health.
Thank you.